The Trump administration just removed the ban on segregated facilities in federal contracts. Slow your roll. We're not immediately teleporting back to the 1960s just yet. First, let's talk about why the ban was put into place to begin with. See, back in 1965, President Lyndon Johnson signed an executive order that put a stop to discriminatory practices in federal contracts. See, the whole separate but equal thing, yeah, that turned out to be one big fat complete lie. All right, I mean, segregation was embedded in everything, even facilities that were funded by taxpayer dollars. So the ban basically said, look, if you're going to take public money, then fairness and equality are not optional. So why would some people even support removing this ban? Well, supporters, they're saying and believe that the ban is about limiting government overreach. They believe that businesses should have the flexibility to design their facilities based off of operational needs without getting bogged down by excessive regulations. They also claim that the rollback promotes efficiency and flexibility in contract management, which could potentially lower costs for taxpayers by not wasting time going back and forth with contracts. And since anti-discrimination laws like Title VII of the Civil Rights Act, they are still in place. So the protections against overt racial discrimination still remain. So the ban to them is kind of unnecessary. Now, on the flip side, critics argue that removing the ban actually is a dangerous rollback, and it opens the door for de facto segregation to creep back in. What does that mean? See, subtle forms of discrimination can easily be masked under the guise of operational preferences. It happens all the time, even to this day. And the DOJ, NFHA, and others, they actually have data that show when left unchecked, these practices disproportionately harm communities of color. Privileged communities might not feel the impact right away, but for communities of color, the effects may be felt a whole lot quicker. Now, at this point, there's a clear pattern emerging here. Many of Trump's policies and executive orders focus on dismantling equality initiatives and weakening civil rights protections, all under the banner of freedom from government interference. In other words, this move isn't a good idea. The optics alone are a PR disaster waiting to happen, and the long-term fallout will be even worse. Protecting equal access to federal resources should not even be a debate. This move sacrifices long-term, albeit unfinished progress just for one man's short-term ideological gain. And lastly, if you're struggling to see why this isn't a good move, just simply ask yourself this. Now knowing the possible trajectory of this, would I personally want to be a person of color in this country if the ban on segregated facilities and federal contracts remains? Seriously, folks, no shade. It's a bad trade-off. What do you think?